Welcome in, everyone, to Spiritual Roots Podcast with me, Misty. Today is a solo episode. We're going to be talking spooky stories from me and from a few listeners that sent in their stories. I had put it out there to have some stories come in because we're in spooky season. Happy October! This is my favorite time of the year. I just went to Salem with my girlfriends, had the best time, best coffee, just good group of gals, witchy friends. We'd go every year. It was so much fun. So today's episode, like I said, is all about spooky stories. I'm going to start with one of mine. When I was a teenager, my very first job, I worked in a nursing home. I worked there for 9 years. 9 years, yeah. 9 years. I started out in the kitchen as a dietary aide, and I worked my way up to an LNA. And from there, I was working on the floor. So I went through all my training, got on the floor, was doing my thing. I worked second shift. I worked 3 to 11. And on this one particular night, I was coming in on duty, and we always had to check in at the nurses' station. So this is an old nursing home, and when I mean old, I think it was probably built in the 70s. It was very popular in the 80s, and then it was bought out. So it was old. It's been there for a while. A lot of people have passed away there. So I was coming in, going in to check in for duty. I came around the corner of this hallway, and I see a fully formed set of feet up to about the knee. And when I mean fully formed, I mean I could see it like someone was just standing there. It was the old school cotton shoes that were very popular with some polyester pants. They were teal. I mean, I could see it clear as day. It was wild. I didn't say anything to anybody. I just was like, holy shit, what am I seeing? And if you remember from my prior episode, I had mentioned that, I'd been intuitive and things have always been around me, but this was the first time I actually saw something and remembered it and saw it with my own eyes. And I may have said something to my mom. I really don't remember, because my mom also worked for this nursing home. She worked there for 25 years, and she had seen a lot of things. So my mom, she wouldn't care if I told the story. My mom, one night, my mom worked all the shifts. Like I said, she worked there for 25 years. She was in LNA the entire time. And if you've ever worked in healthcare, you know that it is about really preparing people for their later years and, to pass away. I mean, it's a retirement home, and unfortunately, that's usually why they're there. So my mom had told me about a time. She'd always told me little ghost stories, especially during the third shift. And there was a rumor, I never experienced this before, but there was a woman that would be dressed in black that people would see when someone was about to pass away. I don't remember if she was ever seen on the first floor, but definitely on the second floor. And the second floor of this nursing home was the dementia unit. So that's where folks went upstairs if they had Alzheimer's or whatever form of dementia was ailing them. That's the floor that they went on. So there was a lot of activity up there. But you could feel the energy of this nursing home. It was just old. A lot of souls were there, or are there. It is still open. In the second time I ever encountered anything, I always got freaked out in the elevator, because when I was a dietary aide, you'd have to bring the carts of food upstairs in the elevator, but the elevator always freaked me out too. There was a vibe in this place for sure. So I was upstairs. We would have to rotate every now and then, so as one works in healthcare, you understand that it is a very short-staffed industry, and we would rotate upstairs sometimes, if someone called out, or if just plain old rotation just needed to go upstairs, because I usually worked on the first floor, which was for people who were there for rehab, say they were coming out of surgery and they needed to go for rehab for whatever reason, or just people who were still cognizant and were still able to take care of themselves. That was the first floor. So I was upstairs one night, and there was a one resident in particular, she had been a long-time resident, and I don't think she had memory issues. I think she just happened to be up on the second floor. She'd been there for a long time, many years, and she had passed away. And this woman's call light went off, and there was no one in the room. And it kept going off all night, and of course it's a call light. We have to answer that regardless if we know if someone's in there or not. Because what if someone fell and they just happened to hit that call light? Nobody. And that went on for my whole shift. And by the end of that shift, because at one point you have to do your paperwork for the night, you have to do your reports, and I'm like, I'm not going there by myself. That was wild to me. I'd never experienced anything like that before. So those are my two spooky stories from the workplace. I did have another friend of mine who also worked at the nursing home. I transferred down to another area because I'd met my husband and I moved. But she had sent me this message, and the person will know who they are, and if they would like, I will totally share their story more accurately. But she had sent me this transcript. She was in the business office of this nursing home. She was in the business office. She didn't work there. She was in there for whatever she had to take care of. She was a actual dietary employee as well. And she had sent me this transcript because they were both at this woman's computer, the business office manager. They were at her computer, and all of a sudden, the keyboard started to type. And it started to type out this message. And I remember when she sent this to me, I got shivers when I saw it. I really hope she listens to this episode and can give me more information, because I would love to come back with another spooky episode and actually read what was said, if she still has it, and give a more in-depth recollection of this story. So the gist of it is, the keyboard starts to type in front of these two people, and it starts to write a message that basically said, there are many souls here. And that was the biggest thing that I remembered, but I think it was a paragraph long. They wrote out, there are many of us here, there are many souls here, and I'm getting shivers just talking about it. I really wish I had a better telling of this story, but I will try to get it. So I have friends that I still am in contact with, that we all work together, and some of us have just had these stories of this nursing home. And I feel like many nursing homes are haunted, right? Because it's a lot of energy. There's a lot of passing of people in those places. So that was workplace ghost stories. I never experienced anything after that, really. Like I said, it was always an energy. Up by the front office at night was a little spooky. It was well lit, so it didn't look spooky, but the energy was spooky, because this place had been renovated too. I think the time frame that I was there had been renovated a couple of times, and one was really major when the administrator switched to a new administrator. Someone else got hired, and she completely renovated this nursing home. So there was a lot of energy in this place that got disrupted around that time. Another story that I have of my own experience, I have two more. When I was about 25, I lived in the area that I live now. I lived with my grandparents, and we have something up here called the rail trail system. And I was out walking. It was this time of year, I remember, because I'm a baseball fan, and it was playoff season for baseball. Go Red Sox. And we were walking down this rail trail, so it was probably around early evening, so the sun's starting to go down earlier during the day. So it was late afternoon, early evening. So we decided to go for this walk. So we're walking down this rail trail, and if someone who's listening to this doesn't know what that is, it's just a railway that has been converted into a rec area. So they took out all the ties and whatnot. So it's just a railroad that's been converted, that was no longer in use, and now it's for recreational purposes. So we are walking down this rail trail. It's beautiful around here. I live in the Upper Valley of New Hampshire, as I've said in prior episodes. But the rail trail system is really beautiful, and we're lucky enough to have a pretty long one here where we live. And we're walking, taking in the sights with my cousin. She's like my best friend. She's like my sister. And we come across this trestle. And back in the day, kids would ditch school and just go on the rail trail and do whatever. Just ditch class. Go down to these trestles, spray paint your name, Lucy loves Jim, whatever. Tag it, whatever they felt like they needed to do. So I was like, hey, let's go down and check it out and see if there's anything written on this trestle. Because people put up, I don't know, pot leaves, whatever junk they wanted to put up. So we go down there, and it's by a river. And we're down there just looking around, enjoying the fall colors and the trees, enjoying each other's company, laughing about whatever. And all of a sudden, I hear a crowd of people, and they are laughing. I mean, they are having the best time. They are coming down that rail trail, and they are just having a time. And I'd say to my cousin, I'm like, hey, Shans, let's go up so they don't think that we're down here, smoking weed or whatever. So she's like, all right. So we get up. We get back on the rail trail. And she heard this crowd too. She's like, oh yeah, okay, I hear them. So the both of us heard this crowd. We start walking back towards where we were coming from, which is where the sound was coming from, and there was nothing. Not a soul. And this was many people. Like a party was going on. This was many people coming down this rail trail, and they were loud. You could even hear their voices echoing at one point. But they were on the rail. Like, there's nothing else around where we were. It was straight up woods and the rail trail. And we're like, holy shit, let's get out of here. One, it's starting to get dark outside, so that made it even spookier. Two, we don't want to get caught with any bears around because they're pretty abundant around here. And we were probably 1.5 miles from where I lived. So we head back and we're like, what the hell was that? We couldn't figure it out. So we're walking. I come across this tree and I was like, Shins, what's this? So we stop and we look. And on this tree, there is a piece of paper shoved in. It's like a makeshift, not a memorial, but like a historical document that someone typed up and put in a plastic sleeve and taped it to a tree. And it turns out there was a huge train accident where we were, in the vicinity where we were. And we were like, is that what we just heard? Did we hear ghosts? Because we both heard it. And it was a very small, short, concise documentation of this. So there was a train accident. It was pretty major. I think it was in 1912. Don't quote me. Early 1900s, regardless. And it was pretty major. A lot of people died in that accident. There were survivors, and there were newspapers. In fact, I was going through some of my great-grandmother's papers from my grandfather's side because my grandparents had a lot of her things. And there was a postcard of this train wreck. It was wild. I couldn't believe that I saw it. First off, they're making postcards about a horrible accident. But I guess, to get news, minus a newspaper, if you needed to write someone, other than a letter, what better way than a postcard, I guess. But it was a pretty famous picture. I've seen it several times now that I know what happened. So we're both freaked out. After this took place, so we end up back at my grandparents'. We probably talked about it, every now and then, just saying, holy shit, remember when that story happened? Remember when we took that walk and we heard that crowd of people? Fast forward about 20 years. I am at my friend's shop, and we're just sitting because she owned a flower shop, and we were just sitting at her flower bar where she would, put her bouquets together. And she was reading this article, and she was like, hey, did you know that there was a accident like this train accident? I was like, oh yeah. And I started to tell her my story. And as she's reading this, she's like, holy shit. And I was like, what? She's like, I just got chills. I'm like, what? What's going on? She was like, that train was coming back from a fair up in Canada. It was full of Canadians who now lived in America, and they were up visiting family, going to this huge fair up there, because this rail system was part of the Boston and Maine Railroad, aka the B&M. And I couldn't believe it. And she's telling me the story, and she's like, yeah, there was a party, like there was recollection from survivors that everybody was joyous, they were having a great time. They were, there's a smoking car for cigars. Everybody was just very joyful because they just came back from this fair, seeing their families. They're going back home now. And then a terrible accident. And if I remember correctly, I believe it was 2 trains that hit head on. If I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. If anyone's interested, you can look up the Canaan Railroad accident at Canaan, New Hampshire. You can check it out for yourselves, and you can look it up. But, yeah, it was a party. And a lot of people, like I said, passed away. And some of the survivors only survived because they were in the smoking car, enjoying a cigar. But a lot of people it's gruesome. I won't get into details. I know this is spooky, but I'll make it a little less gruesome. It was bad. So that was wild to me. We heard this crowd of people, and 20 years later, it was, verified, validated through this article that I'd never found. And I just happened to be talking to my friend, and that's the story. That's the ghost story. I always hear things. I don't necessarily see them, but I hear them. And that's what I talked about in episode 0, the beginning. So that's just wild to me. I still kind of get chills about it. So the next story I have has to deal with when I was a teenager. So like 15, 16, somewhere in there. Somewhere in that vicinity. My very good friend, my best friend from school, her grandparents lived in Massachusetts, and she invited me down to their house one time, and her grandparents' home was beautiful. It was very old. I think it was one of, if not the oldest in the town that they lived in. It was a beautiful place, a lot of great memories there. But I had gone down for the very first time with her, and I met her grandparents. So her Nana and Papa, I got to meet them. We stayed down for the weekend, I believe. We just hung out. She showed me around. I'd never been in this area of Massachusetts before. It's down by Cambridge. And it's close to Harvard Square, so it's close to the university. But she showed me the sights, and back then I was very introverted. I didn't want to go anywhere. I was very much a stay-at-home person, as a teenager is most of the time. So, saw the sights, cool, hung out for the weekend, get back home, and not long after my visit, she had let me know that her papa had passed away. And she told me her own story about that. And I was like, oh, I felt bad. I, gave my condolences. And I go down for another visit. No idea the time frame, to be honest with you. It's been so long. But this house is very old. I think it was built in the 1700s. So very narrow hallways. There was a 3rd floor, which was super cool. That's where really we hung out. There were also some pretty weird vibes up there. But we stayed up on the 2nd floor where there were 2 bedrooms, and we stayed in the guest room, which had a set of twin beds. So the bed that I slept in was right next to the door. And I mean, when I say next to the door, it was like within inches of this door handle. So we're sleeping one night, and you're in the city, there's a lot of sirens, there's a lot of noise, and I wake up and I hear these footsteps coming down the hallway, and they're shuffling footsteps, like someone's dragging their feet. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm tensed up in the bed. I don't want to say anything to my friend because I don't want to freak her out, and I also don't want her to think I'm crazy and overreacting. So I'm tensed up, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Don't come in here, don't come in here. And I just remember shutting my eyes and I'm like, don't come in, don't come in, don't come in, don't come in. Because I know what her Nana sounds like. She was a very petite woman. This is not her. Oh my God, oh my God. No one comes in the door, but I'm like, I know this was her papa. I had met him before. I knew how he walked. I met him the one time. I know how he moved in the house. And so the next morning, we wake up. I tell her, so let me backtrack. I hear the footsteps. They turn the corner to go downstairs. So I hear them come down that narrow hallway from the 3rd floor stairway, come down that narrow hallway, and just turn the corner and go down those stairs. And I was so scared. So the next morning I wake up, I told my friend, and she was like, holy shit. So she's like, she asked her Nana if her Nana had gotten up in the middle of the night, and she had said no. And we both were like, yeah, that was definitely her grandfather coming down those stairs. So that was the next big ghost story that I have. So on to some listener stories. I have 3, so I hope you enjoyed so far. Let's see. So first up, we have another rail trail story. All right, and this comes from Kristen. Last fall, I took Bennett, which is her dog. I took Bennett for a walk on the rail trail, starting near Hammond's Lumber toward Tewksbury Pond. The day felt normal at first. We passed Mirror Lake in a rocky section where the energy suddenly shifted. I realized I hadn't put orange on Bennett for hunting season, so I stepped a few feet into posted property to grab some orange tape from a tree. Oddly, Bennett, who always follows me, refused to come off the trail. I tied the tape on his collar, but he seemed uncomfortable with it. We continued until we reached a long, straight stretch of trail. At the far end, I saw 2 people on bikes. They passed, and a minute later, another shape appeared in the distance. At first I thought it was another biker, but as I moved closer, it became clear it wasn't. It was tall, jet black, and with no features or texture. Too skinny to be a bear, but its jerky, unnatural movements didn't seem human or animal either. I grew nervous and began walking away, turning back every few steps. The shape lingered on the trail, moving oddly, until suddenly it picked up speed and darted into the woods. Terrified, I ran all the way back near the Putnam's Pond, not stopping until I reached the roadside. The encounter left me shaken. The shape felt dark, almost demonic, and tied to that posted property. When I got home, I tore the orange tape off Bennett and buried it, convinced it carried bad energy. I never walked that part of the rail trail again. That is spooky. I'm telling you folks, the rail trail around here is beautiful, but it is spooky. It is spooky. I remember riding my bike one time. Actually, I'm remembering this. Riding my bike one time, living same area with my grandparents. I rode that section of the rail trail where the train happened, and I had to turn around because I felt like I was being watched. It's spooky. It's spooky for sure. So I totally believe this story. And I remember when this happened to her because she was messaging all of us in the group chat that we have, and we were genuinely afraid for her. Like, we were checking on her every few minutes because some parts of the rail trail there's nowhere to get off it. Like, you're literally surrounded either by water or trees that go into the woods. There's no houses around for a little while, so it can be very spooky if you're out there by yourself, or even with a friend, to be honest. Okay, let's go on to the next story. My name is Shannon. This story might make me sound crazy, but about 3 years ago, I was up late because I couldn't sleep. My husband had been in bed for about 2 hours, and I was watching TV with my 2 dogs. My big boy Butch decided he needed to go outside, so I obliged. As we headed to the kitchen, and my sweet baby angel of a pit bull slowly followed, and the 3 of us made the truck out to the back door. After about 10 minutes, I started calling for the boys to come in. Butch happily came running up, which was weird because Raja had always been the better listener. As one with multiple animals does, I said, "Where's your brother?" No answer, obviously. I let Butch in and called again to Raj. Nothing. In a panic, I started searching the backyard, calling his name, and frantically, being that crazy person, wandering the yard with my phone flashlight. It's dark out, and I'm searching for a black dog. Official panic sets in, and now I'm running inside to go get my husband to help me look. As I enter our room, to my surprise, my sweet baby angel was in bed, cuddled up to my husband. After a deep breath of relief, it hit me. Who did I let in my house? Who did I wait to open the door to go outside? And that's the day I met the ghost dog that lives in my house. Some backstory. Raja was experiencing some health issues and having seizures once a week at this point. 6 months later, after an emergency vet appointment, I found out he was riddled with cancer. There was nothing they could do. Some days I like to think maybe it was a message of some kind, but who knows? He was the best dog and loved by everyone who met him. I'm so sorry, Shans. It's so hard. You know, our animals, our 4-legged people, are so close to us, and it hits hard when we have to let them go. Okay, so last one. When I was little, my grandfather was standing at the end of my bed watching over me. I wasn't scared. It was like he just wanted to watch me sleeping. I woke up in the morning. My grandmother called. I remember answering the phone and giving it to my dad, and he had told me that he had died in the night. Wow. That comes from Dawn. A lot of premonitions, a lot of people reaching out, wanting to be recognized in these stories, all of us together here. And, that leads up with this time of season, too, that this is when the veil starts to thin between, the tangible and the unseen. And this is the time where we start to honor our ancestors, venerate them in whatever way we like. And I like these stories because they're all, most of them, are related to loved ones, whether it's our 4-legged doggies or, our human ones, or even people that we took care of. This is today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you got a bit of a chill while listening to a couple of these stories. I do plan on having another episode like this before Halloween. This is my time of year. I love it. So please, if you have any spooky stories that you would like to have read on the show, if you would like to send them to spiritualroutespodcast@gmail.com, I would gladly take a look at them, and you possibly could have it read on the show. So again, thank you so much for listening. And if you liked this episode or any prior episodes, or you just are starting to vibe with the podcast, please give me a like and a share. I would so appreciate it. And also, you can find me on Instagram at Spiritual Roots Podcast, and also on Facebook, same name. You can also find me on my other Instagram at Sun and May Charms, and that's SUNNMAE Charms, and that is also on Instagram and Facebook. So thanks again. Happy spooky season. Take care.